So, I want to share a philosophical belief of mine, something that helps me when I have a hard time, which anyone who knew me and knew at least a little bit of what I was going through over the past year or two, um, I forgot this over the course of that time, and it royally screwed me to forget this. But as soon as I remembered it, I went from deep depression to, oh, actually, I'm fine. It was like I'm going to be talking about Stoics, and one of the most annoying things that the Stoics say is that man is only as happy as he chooses to be. And the reason it's annoying is because it's kind of like telling someone who's depressed, hey, don't be depressed. It's not really helpful. But remembering this one particular thing took me from in the middle of a fucking depression, not quite in the middle of it. I was actually doing a bit better by the uh, that point. But the moment I remembered this as something that I tell myself, um, I snapped out of it. I was depressed. I felt terrible. I didn't wasn't enjoying life at all. Right, and it wasn't the first time I'd gone through that. I'd actually worked my way out of it before, uh, but I couldn't remember how. I couldn't remember how to like see a happiness in the future, even though I had plenty of things to look forward to and plenty of things that I was working on. I just, you know, I did all of the things that you're supposed to do, and then I fell into a depression. And it, I kept doing all the things, but I kept falling deeper and deeper until I cut myself off from everyone and just tried to work through it, figure out, if I lose all of my outside influences for a while, 2 months to be more exact, um, what's left? What's still on my mind? What still matters to me? And what the fuck has been going on with me? Uh, and it took me about the full 2 months, maybe a little less than that, before I remembered this one very important thing that snapped me right out of it. Life is fair. That's it. Um, the reason for that, it doesn't mean that bad things don't happen. You can't tell either by knowing me already or by just listening to what I just said. I know that unfair things happen all the time to everyone. It's why we usually say life is unfair, because it just feels that way a lot of the time, right? And certainly in single instances or systemic matters, right? In those moments and those systemic fucking realities, shit's unfair. It just is. Uh, it's not fair between people, and it's not fair between the classes. It's not fair between races. It's not fair between genders. It's not fair between countries. It's not fair between sports teams. It's not fair between siblings. It's not fair between anyone, right? There's hierarchies, and it's all bullshit. It fucking sucks, and life's tough. But when we say that life is unfair, we're doing ourselves a disservice by allowing ourselves to think, okay, we're just victims of life in general. Um, and one that negates the fact that there are actual things like systemic bullshits and asshole people who and or are creating unjust and unfair things that just shouldn't exist, right? We should do away with those things and we should fight them. If we just blame it all on life, though, we're not going to do that because, oh, that's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Life is unfair. That's how it is. Just live with it. Fuck that. No, life is fair. And the system is fucked. Life is fair and hierarchies suck. Life is fair and you were poorly raised. Right? Life is fair because life doesn't owe you a goddamn thing. Life can't do anything to you. It's not life. It's other life forms. It's other living creatures, things, systems, living systems. All those things, yes. Those things are alive and those things are unfair. But life itself is not unfair. Life itself is fair. And the reason that helps is because when an unfair thing happens, it's not going to last forever. You can look at just about anything on a spectrum, which is fairly common these days, probably where I got it from. But you can look at just life in general on a spectrum, right? You got bad shit on one end, good shit on the other end. And there's a pendulum up on top, right? It's swinging back and forth between the good and the bad. Now, sometimes it's over here on the bad for a while, right? It got a good swing that way. And staying over there for a while. It's not a pendulum that swings back and forth the way a pendulum usually does. It gets outside influences. So, something bad happens, it knocks it further that way, and it stays over there longer. Something good happens, it knocks it further that way, it stays over there longer. But eventually it always comes back over, and it goes back and forth. And over time, and this is where Buddhism comes in, it's the yin-yang, over time, the good and the bad balance out, and they come to a center. And that's life. It comes to both the good and the bad. Okay? If you look at a yin-yang, it shows the good that's in the bad, and the bad that's in the good, and it's always that way. There's good on one half, good on a bad half, or there's good on one half, bad on another half, and there's good in the bad, bad in the good. And if you notice, it's swirling. It's not staying in one place. It's constantly moving. It's constantly mixing. The good and the bad exist together, and they are in balance. That's fair. And it's the same shit that the Stoics say, they just wrap it differently. Less helpful with the Stoics. Stoics just like, no, you're fine. This stuff happens. Just be happy, dude. They don't always provide the way to be happy, which is what I'm trying to do now. Is when I say life is fair, I say that to myself because life doesn't feel fair at the time, right? Something about my life, and we can pick many things. We're not going to pick a specific one because why bother? Something like that happens, right? Emotional damage or physical damage or fucking just any kind of damage to me or you. It feels unfair. Sometimes it feels fair. Sometimes I can sit there and say, no, I deserved that shit. But usually when I deserve something, a lot of people could tell you this, I will just accept whatever punishment is coming my way. I will even tell them what punishment it should be. Right? I've slept with some people that I wasn't supposed to sleep with, and I always tell their boyfriends, like, hey man, if you're really mad at me, you can hit me, right? I'm okay with it. They usually choose not to, because you can you hit somebody who asked you to. I honestly think they should sometimes, but it's not that life is unfair, is just what I'm getting at. Is life is fair because it can't be anything else. Life can't be unfair to you. It doesn't owe you anything. It doesn't care. Life does not give a shit. And it all just balances out in the end. And you could easily say, no, that's bullshit. It doesn't balance out. It's all shit until you die. Sure, if that's your outlook, then yes, you're right. If that is your outlook, then yes, you are right. It's all shit until you die. But that's because of you. And that's where the Stoics are right. Because you have everything you need already, right? You either have everything you need already or you have everything you need to get the other things that you need. And you'll get them if you try for it. The hard part about life being fair is that when unfair things happen, it's usually not because we chose for it to happen. It's because an outside force smacked us in the face. Or in the emotions. Usually it's in the emotions. It smacks us in the emotions. We don't really give a shit if it doesn't smack us in the emotions. So life feels unfair when that happens. And it happens because of the outside influences. So it's easier for us to see those things. It's harder for us to see the inside influences because, like every fucking philosophy has ever said, knowing yourself is the hardest fucking thing. It is the hardest thing. I think we're getting a little closer to being able to do that if we study hard enough, but it still takes a lot of introspection, and you gotta like desocietize yourself. There's so much that comes in from our societal influences and our familiar, well, everything is your society. Everything around you is your society. So the 5 people that are closest to you, an amalgamation of them is you. The 5 movies you know best, the 5 books you had that had the biggest effect on you, whatever those influences are, those are your society. Those are the things that make you up. So you've got to like study all that shit and then try and get rid of all of it and try and figure out what's left. And it is really fucking hard. I've done a little bit of it and I'm still pretty sure I don't know me. So honestly, I don't know very many people who can name as much honest shit about themselves as I have done in my time. And I definitely am missing shit. So, knowing yourself, super hard. But if you really try, you can see that you have within you or around you everything you need. Life gave you all that. Whether you're God or happenstance, whatever. You have it all. It's already there. You might have to work really hard or look for a long time. You might have to study a lot to figure it out. But it's there. You've just got to be able to see the good. The good is always there. That yin yang. The good is always there. No matter how bad things get, there's an equal amount of good. Opposite reaction. Equal and opposite reaction. It's fucking. There was another thing. See, I'm intelligent, but I can't remember shit, right? It doesn't mean life is unfair that I can't remember shit. It just means life is fair. I can remember some shit. The point is, life isn't going to feel good all the time. But it's not going to feel bad all the time either. And the only thing that makes it feel good or bad is the quality of your thoughts. Because your thoughts are habits. The things you think about are habits of yours. If you think about, what did you think the most about when you were an 11-year-old? You probably don't think as much about those things anymore, unless they are things that have continued to be a part of your life. And the reason that you still think about those things is because they've continued to be a part of your life. They are a habit, a constant thing in your life. And, okay. Your thoughts are the same way. If you don't want to think about something, if you don't want to focus on something, you can choose what you're going to think about. If you want to be I'm learning to play the guitar right now. The only way that I could learn to play the guitar, if I can truly work on it and become a musician of some sort, is if I continuously work at it. If I spend time thinking about and working on playing the guitar. That means, if I'm reading something, am I reading the notation, then that's what I'm thinking about is the notations. I'm thinking F, E, D, F, E, D, G, A, G, whatever. As I'm going through that, that's what's on my mind. So that ends up being something that I think about consistently, and it becomes a habit, as does practice, as does knowing how to play the guitar. It's the same way with everything else. If all you think about is the bad shit that's happened to you, then all you think about is the bad shit that happens to you, and it's gonna stay in your head, and it's gonna keep making you sad, and it's gonna keep making you afraid, and it's gonna keep making you unable to handle whatever you're dealing with. And when I forgot it, what was happening was that a bunch of shit kept happening to me, right? A super bad thing in my life happened, something that's gonna it's left emotional scar damage. It is never going to be fully fixed. Even if I fix it, it's never going to fully heal. It just won't. There's no way around it. And then I distracted myself with as many things as I could that were healthy for me. But then I got into another thing, kind of accidentally, that turned out badly. And while that wasn't something that would normally hurt me really bad, it caused a chain reaction of multiple bad things that just kept hurting. And before I managed to get the bad shit off my mind, I had more bad shit put on my mind. And I had more and more bad shit. And by the time I started having good shit again, I had forgotten to tell myself that life is fair. I fell into a depression because I couldn't think of the good things anymore. I got into the habit of thinking about the things that made me unhappy, that made me sad or angry or frustrated or just fucking depressed. And all of those bad things that stayed on my mind, they stayed on my mind because I allowed them to. They also stayed because I was in a situation where I was constantly surrounded by a lot of the bad shit that had just gotten to me. So I wasn't able to heal because I was still in the same situation that I had been in before. You cannot heal if you're still in the same situation. It won't work. So, if you're around certain people and they make you feel bad, you got to get away from those people. And you got to know which people it is, right? Because it could be that, one person makes you feel bad all the time, and then some other people come in and they continue to make you feel bad. They end up making everybody else feel bad too. And then because they're a fucking psychopath or a narcissist or a sociopath or whatever the fuck they are, they they make you and everyone else feel bad, and then everyone makes each other feel bad because there's this rot in the room, and then you could just tell yourself, no, all we got to do is get rid of all these other people, and then we'll go back to the way it was. And you're right, you will go back to the way it was, but the way it was wasn't better. It was just there. It's just familiar because you've been through it this whole time. The thing that you thought was going to heal you ended up being bad because you brought the rot with you, right? So it's not, take your current situation and then plop it into another reality. It's take you out of that situation and plop only you into a new reality, which is what I did when I went into isolation. Cut everyone off for 2 months. I didn't speak to anyone. And I had the chance to get away from all the things that were bothering me and let myself heal for a bit. And then when I came back, some of the shit was still there and it still bothered me. And I was able to look at it and say, no, this is the problem. This right here, that's the problem. Not this person, not this person, not this person, not this person, not this thing, not that thing, not this aspect of my life, not that aspect of my life. No, these few things here are the things that make me sad. I was able to look at my job. And I had said this to myself many times before, this is a waste of life. I'd look at the building where I work and think, this is a waste of my life. The number of hours I put in here under a welding hood, it's a fucking waste of my life. And I feel that every goddamn day. But I know that I have everything I need to get away from that. And the unfair thing of my life being spent in a fucking factory where I don't really belong, doing something that I've known since I was a little kid what I was meant to do. But, I know the meaning of my life, and it's not to be a welder. And that feels unfair to me. That doesn't mean life is unfair. It just means that my situation that I'm in is unfair, and it makes me sad. And that's why I work when I get home from work, so that I can continue to try and get out of it, because I have everything I need to do it. Life is fair. I have everything I need. It doesn't matter that I'm in a situation I hate. It doesn't matter that I've been with... Okay, these things matter. These things do matter in a sense. But it's not about this person makes me sad or this person makes me happy. It's... Excuse me, that is it. I'm tired too. Point is, if you're feeling bad about something, it's because you're thinking about it. And that's it. Right? If you forgot that it had ever happened, it wouldn't bother you. You wouldn't know about it. It hadn't happened. You can't actually gaslight yourself that well. You will always remember it in some way, and your body may remember it depending on what it is. You don't want to actually forget the bad things, but you do want to focus on the good things. Because you focus on the good things, and you notice them more. The bad things you're going to notice either way. You can't not notice them. They're bad things. They suck. They smell bad. They look bad. They feel bad. You notice them. But you probably don't notice all the good things as much, right? Because when a good thing happens, you don't spend that much time thinking about it. You just experience it and you're happy, and then something comes along and smacks you in the face, smacks you in the feelings. And that is why life sucks. But it's not unfair. It is fair. And I tell myself that it's fair because when I feel bad, if I tell myself life is fair, It reminds me that no matter how bad it gets, it's never going to be better. And it's never going to be worse. Because it's never anything but balanced. It's never anything but fair. It's just fucking life. It's not unfair. It's fair. Life is not doing anything to hurt you. There are bad people in this world. There are bad situations in this world. There are unhappy things, but there are good people. There are good situations. There are good things. It equals out. Always. And if you don't want to believe that, fine. You don't have to. But some things are better to believe in than to not believe in. And believing that life is not terrible all the time is probably better than believing that life is terrible all the time. Because when you think that life is terrible all the time, you end up feeling bad all the time. And that becomes a habit. If you allow yourself to have the habit of everything sucks, then everything's gonna suck. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you tell yourself everything is great, well, eventually something's gonna come and smack you. It's not gonna be great. Sometimes getting smacked feels good, but most, outside of sexuality or a fun fight, not usually. It doesn't feel good. So you're going to notice the bad stuff no matter what. You got to look at the good stuff too. You have to realize that there is good in the bad and bad in the good. Always. There's no getting away from that. So just fucking accept it. And try and think about the good things. Try and focus on what you have that works for you, that's good for you, right? I can go on and on about my fucking sob story. Everyone's got a sob story. It's why they say life is unfair. But I've got a lot of good things for me, going for me. Like I'm handsome, I'm talented, I'm usually pretty good at sports. I'm good at a lot of shit. I'm great with my hands. I'm great in almost everything I do. I don't really fail at anything that I try to do. Yeah, I've had a bit of a fucked up life in some ways. Could have been worse, could have been better. But everyone can say that. To some degree. They can't say the exact same things that I could. Everyone's a little different, but it still balances out. There are things that I'm bad at. I fucking suck at paperwork, but I'm good at a lot of other shit. I'm the best at most of the shit that I try to do. I learn skills, I end up becoming the best in the room. Because I know how. Because I was lucky enough to have the ability to learn things and work really hard at them. But I got that from shit from my childhood that didn't feel good and still bothers me. So I'm a great worker and I know how to learn things, and I learn fairly quickly, and I work my fucking ass off all the time. And those things help me out a lot in life. But the way that I learned to be that way did not fucking help me. And I don't know if the ends justified the means, but I do know they kind of equal out, and I don't feel too bad about it, because what's the point in feeling bad when the good is just as much as the bad? Might as well just focus on the good things. So when something bad happens, don't tell yourself life is unfair. Tell yourself that life is fair, because life isn't doing anything to you, and it's gonna balance out. karma. They'll balance out. You'll be fine. You just have to allow yourself to be. And you might have to work really hard. You might have to look really hard to find the good. You might have to isolate yourself. You might have to get away from a certain situation first. You might have to take a lot of time to yourself to try and figure it out. It might take introspection, which sucks. It might take accepting that certain people or certain things that you really wanted to be good for you turned out to not be good. And, you know, it gets easier when you don't let the bad things hold you down. When you recognize the habits in your own thoughts and you change them on purpose. You focus on the good things. You focus on what you want in the future, not what happened in the past. Just, I wish the best for you. I hope you're okay.